Tuesday of the 6th week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the letter of St. James. Blessed is he who perseveres in temptation, for when he has been proven, he will receive the crown of life that he promised to those who love him. No one experiencing temptation should say, I am being tempted by God, for God is not subject to temptation to evil, and he himself tempts no one. Rather, each person is tempted when lured and enticed by his desire. Then desire conceives and brings forth sin, and when sin reaches maturity, it gives birth to death. Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers and sisters. All good giving and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no alteration or shadow caused by change. He willed to give us birth by the word of truth, that we may be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, Blessed the man you instruct, O Lord. Blessed the man whom you instruct, O Lord, whom by your law you teach, giving him rest from evil days. Blessed the man you instruct, O Lord. For the Lord will not cast off his people, nor abandon his inheritance, but judgment shall again be with justice, and the upright of heart shall follow it. Blessed the man you instruct, O Lord. When I say my foot is slipping, your mercy, O Lord, sustains me. When cares abound within me, your comfort gladdens my soul. Blessed the man you instruct, O Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. The disciples had forgotten to bring bread, and they had only one loaf with them in the boat. Jesus enjoined them, Watch out, guard against the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. They concluded among themselves that it was because they had no bread. When he became aware of this, he said to them, Why do you conclude that it is because you have no bread? Do you not yet understand or comprehend? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes and not see, ears and not hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many wicker baskets full of fragments you picked up? They answered him, 12. When I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many full baskets of fragments did you pick up? They answered him, 7. He said to them, Do you still not understand? The Gospel of the Lord.
The first reading comes from James 1, 12 to 18. In this passage, James talks about temptation. We shouldn't say that temptation comes from God. God doesn't send temptation. It comes from the evil one, but it also comes from our own evil desires. Let's not blame Satan for the fact that we're lazy, that we're judgmental, that we're tempted by certain things. We have to realize that these have to be purified, and we purify them by turning away from these things. And resisting temptation is one way to turn away from them. The temptation in itself is not a sin. If a dirty thought pops into our mind, that's not a sin because we didn't invite that dirty thought in. What is a sin is if we act upon that dirty thought, if we continue to think about that dirty thought. Those are the sins, not the initial impulse. If somebody cuts us off in traffic, we'll see a surge of anger. That's not the sin. What we do with it might be the sin. And then no good comes into this world except from God. So God is the source of all good, not the source of evil. The Gospel is from Mark 8, 14 to 21. Jesus says, watch out for the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. He's not talking about bread as the disciples think. In fact, Jesus has to correct them, saying, how many baskets were left over when I fed the pagans, the 4,000? They say 7 baskets. How many were left over when I fed the 5,000, the Jews? 12 baskets were left over. So Jesus is saying, I wouldn't be talking about bread. I can make bread any time. The leaven of the Pharisees Leaven is that small element that's put in dough that causes it to expand. If we buy into sin in the smallest way, it will expand. If we allow ourselves certain luxuries, certain permissions that we know lead on the path to sin, then we're going to end up doing the wrong thing. And so the point to cut it off is long before we actually sin. It's when we feel ourselves beginning to slip. That's when we have to make sure that we avoid temptation. Now that doesn't mean we should be scrupulous, but it does mean we should be careful and watchful. And may God bless us.